Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's program. My name is Noah Rauch. I'm the Senior Vice President for Education and Public Programs here at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. It is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's program. Hello to all of our members that I see in the audience. Hello to everyone who is tuning into our live web broadcast. 50 years ago, Philippe Petit captured headlines around the world when he performed a highwire walk between the Twin Towers of the newly dedicated World Trade Center. In fact, we marked the 50th anniversary of that dedication here last year. A quarter of a mile in the sky, Philippe walked and performed his way between the two skyscrapers without a net for 45 minutes. You could not pay me enough money. It wasn't long until a local newspaper coined his historic walk between the buildings as the artistic crime of the century. Before this, Philippe had already completed two other illegal high-wire walks, one at the age of 21 between the towers of Notre Dame and the other between two pylons of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. He continues to perform, with permission, at sites including the Eiffel Tower, Lincoln Center, and Grand Central Station. His most recent show was on a high wire with Sting singing below him at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, where he's been an artist in residence for more than 40 years. It is an honor and a joy to have you with us here this evening. Thank you for joining us, and please join me in welcoming Philippe Petit in conversation with Clifford Chanin.
Yeah, I did mean to warn you, it might be a hostile audience tonight. So, in reading about your preparation for the World Trade Center walk, but your beginnings as a wire walker, it struck me that there really wasn't a long time between the period where you really devoted yourself to learning how to walk a wire and these efforts you made, whether it was in Notre Dame or in Sydney Harbour or ultimately in the World Trade Center. It feels like a very compressed amount of time.
It's a right observation. Everything in my life had happened, I would say, by chance and at a very fast rhythm. I gallop through life. I am reminded left and right that life is short, and I have so many passions. And my third passion, magic, juggling, and the tightrope, which I learned the three by myself, happened very quickly. And yes, I progress in my arts much too fast. There is no such thing as progressing too fast, I guess, but I was galloping, and I'm still am. Is that your last question?
I feel like I'm going to be set up all evening for this. So,
wait, before, because of the occasion, that before we go on, I think we should remember the Twin Towers.
So I need the pen though. Now I've completely lost my place. No, you did these things, but what brought you onto the wire at first? Because as you come to describe it retrospectively, there's a magic, there's a poetry, there's a mystery to it. But what was it that first attracted you to this?
I love that question because it's really, the answer is really who I am. I was not born in a circus world or in showbiz, and I hate that word anyway. I learned by myself, I said that already, and what inspired me at teenage age to try the tightrope was the arts, the film, the opera, the music. I was adopted as a mascot, as a young magician by a group of masters of art in Paris, musicians, poets, sculptors. I was doing magic tricks. They loved me. They invited me to their atelier as they were painting or sculpting. And that really shaped my young destiny. And I became a wire walker, really more than inspired, really, gathering all those artistic elements floating in my young life and making them mine. Movies, for example, today at 75, I mean, extremely old man is a joke, but I am regretting to have not done my first movie, and sometimes I see myself as a movie maker who has not done his first movie yet. I'm not losing my track. I'm going back to answering your question.
You don't lose your track, I know.
No, I often lose my track. But anyway, on appelle perdre le fil, to lose the wire.
Lose the wire. Yep.
Anyway, I'm going back to the wire by saying that when I was a teenager, I was watching Fellini's movie, specifically 8.5 dozens of times. And my first performance, which was a giant fiasco, in a theatrical way on the tightrope, I used the Nino Rota's music for Fellini. So when you have a child or a young adult meandering through all the arts and having all those teachers, I say I learned by myself, but I had tons of ephemeral teachers, some who became my best friends, and some like Buster Keaton, who I never met. But it obviously shaped your, again, I use the word destiny, I like that, but it shapes my character as a young artist. So it's a very important question to ask a creator, is, what influenced you in your departure? And it was, to go back to the galloping style, it was almost instant. It was just a few months I devoured the art of wire walking, which at the time was not an art really. And I made it an art. I believe when I die, I hope I will from above read the article. Say he made wire walking an art. But anyway, so good. That was a good question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try another one. Let's see how we do on this one.
I hope they all...
Well, let's not get our hopes too high. But when you're on the wire in those early days, does it feel the same to you as when you're on the wire as this master of the craft? Is it the same mystery?
I'm getting upset because that's another fabulous question.
I'm front-loading the interview.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, when I am being asked to tell about my feeling of being on the wire, if I remember my first performances, my first rehearsal, and then today I'm rehearsing almost every day, not in winter, it's exactly the same. I mean, my art has, evolved. How do you say?
Evolved.
But the feeling is the same because I have to stand up. The feeling when I am grabbing the balancing pole, if I work with a pole, and placing my first feet on the wire and glancing over there so I am more elegant than looking at my feet, I have the feeling not at all of what many people in America think or expect, because we have a culture in America of daredevil and stuntman and all that. I am not, when I grab the pole and do that first step, I am not risking my life at all. I think it's, like my friend Werner Herzog would say, it's, disgusting and what is the word you use? Obscene. With a Bavarian accent, I cannot do it. But it's obscene to risk your life. So I don't risk my life, I carry my life across. And first it's a feeling of magic, of miracle, and I'm looking at my own made miracle. But I know it inspires the people because you don't look at something technical or something to prove, I am stronger than you and I am the highest and the longest and all that. It's almost the opposite. I'm showing something very simple, something that looks natural and elegant and effortless, which of course it is not. So I love that to ask me to talk about my first feeling getting on that wire. And I had now my last feeling, which is yesterday when I was on the wire. Actually, I was a few days ago, even it was very cold in the Catskills where I am. I was on the wire and it's really a feeling of renewed amazement. And then the strange chemistry is that the amazement doesn't fall from the sky. It is produced by yourself. So you do something amazing and you're amazed by being amazed of having done it. So,
but for all of us lay people, it seems inconceivable that it would be the same feeling walking the wire in your backyard as walking between the World Trade Center towers.
No, I tell you why. It's because not being from the circus, not working with cliches and styles already established by people, but having had to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, learning by yourself in art needs a lot of concentration, focus, how do you say, you have to repeat and repeat the same movement to control it. And when you do that, your state of mind is extremely not tense. It should not be tense, but extremely focused on what you're doing. So it's very normal that I have that feeling.
So your first coup, as you call them, was big one anyway, was Paris and the Notre Dame Cathedral.
It was, I would say, for the press and for the public, it was the first one. But before that, and I was 17, 18, I did a couple of coups, a couple of putting my wire without permission in places, some giant places in Paris, and they called the police, and they took me out. They didn't really know how to deal with an illegal wire walker. I mean, when you see, the blood and the knife and the gun are on the floor, it's easy. But an illegal wire walker, plus they didn't have a wire walking unit in their thing. But so I did a couple of illegal walks in Paris, pretty daring, and then at some point I appeared between the towers of Notre Dame, and really the next day I was more or less in the front page all over the world, and that was the first thing.
And the feeling of taking on that extraordinary landmark, and now just to be reopened after the fire on Sunday, that feeling, though, must have been different, because you must have known you were going to be
but you see,
on the newspaper.
The feeling of getting, for 2 or 3 years, of making false keys and taking pictures and sneaking in the thing to know how I will attach the cable, all that was not the end of the world for me. It was my natural, again, going back to preparing something and making sure everything has been thought of. So the day of the walk, everything goes well. So it was, I was not amazed by that. It was not a routine. I was not doing an illegal walk every Tuesday, but, although I would want to, but, anyway, it was not, I remember the Notre Dame, all of my illegal adventure. When I think of them, it was very much one detail after another, one problem to solve after another, and then you have to be lucky in a way to not get caught before the first step. So not really, I don't have a giant feeling about my walk between Notre Dame in 1971 and now the reopening. But I love Notre Dame. I study Notre Dame. It's my, it's in me. And I even proposed to the French government, I don't know, they have not responded so far, to do another walk, exactly the same walk in next year. They're opening in a few days. So they are they cannot even answer an email right now. They're too busy. But the celebration of the opening, like often, will take a few months. And I proposed to them to do the walk again, and they have not said no, which I am amazed, They have not said yes.
But how could they say no?
Well, no, to say no is much easier than to say yes. To say yes, you have to work on it. To say no is like, I wash my hands,
So the World Trade Center, the story is that you're in a dentist's office.
I'm drinking from the South Tower. From which I started. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
No, please.
I was just thirsty.
There's 2 bottles for you if you like. You're in a dentist's office in Paris, and you see this photo of the World Trade. Is that the true story?
No, it's not. I'm very glad you added that, because now that I am an old man, I don't know what, maybe I was influenced by people around me, but I decided to debunk, I think is the word, legends, or, put some lies or some extravagant, stupid idea back to what the truth was. And I was so proud to have invented that story. When I was 18 years old, I was in the dentist and I saw, and it's in Man on Wire, it's in the documentary. And when I said to James Marsh 10 years later, I lied to you, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. He didn't kill me. He said, Philippe, it's beautiful. You are reinventing your mythology, or you're rewriting your mythology. Thought it was a good way to put it. So anyway, that did not really happen. But the beauty of writing a legend is if the truth is 10 times more amazing than the legend. And in my case, it is. Because I said, I don't know, I was proud, it made me feel important. Yeah, I've worked on this project for 6.5 years, and then it started when at the dentist. But the truth is, it was not even 1 year from the moment I went to New York and looked at the Twin Towers for the first time to the moment I did my first step. So that's 10 times more amazing, magic, and interesting than the story of 6.5 years. And then it's the same. It's a lot. It's not important, but I played with this year, the 50 year. I show my hand because 50 years, it's a lot of years. 50-year anniversary of my work. I think it was the right thing to do, to start saying it didn't happen like this, and why. So did you come to New York the first time because of the towers, or did you somehow discover the towers and your idea of doing it? Well, that is an impossible question to answer, because part of the legend is built on a true fact. A true fact is that under my bed in Paris, in a little room that I used for years and years, there was a box labeled Project. And I was throwing in that box, pictures from a magazine or article about, I don't know what, a new cathedral in construction, a beautiful, abyss in Peru or something. Because I'm a dreamer. I was a dreamer. I'm still a dreamer. And I will each time draw a little wire, but I would not draw a little man on that wire. That would be, tempting the gods. So, believe it or not, sleeping in that box under my bed, there was a 1968 clipping showing the Twin Towers that did not exist, showing actually a model that you have downstairs, Minoru Yamasaki. He did 70 models, but the best one is, you have it. And it was an article in the French newspaper. So of course, instead of saying the World Trade Center, they say the World Center Trade or something like that. They could not call it what it was called, but they say when it is built, in many, many years from now, it will be, and that will call the French people imagination, 100 meters higher than the the Eiffel Tower. Mm-hmm. See, I mix up my monuments. And to me, this article, I was riveted, and I threw it in my box of project, and I forgot it. And I created the legend that I started to work on the project in 1968. So it has a little bit of elements of truth. It had marked my imagination 6 years earlier. And then I heard there was another article showing the Twin Towers being almost finished. And I thought, if I have to disguise myself as an architect, as a journalist, as a iron worker, it's now or never. When the towers are finished, I'll be arrested at the bottom if I try to go to the roof. And I did just that. I ran to New York, and that was 8 months before my walk. So it's completely insane.
This is galloping as well.
Yes.
So do you remember your first impression of actually seeing them live?
Yes. I remember for plenty of reasons. First, I had to sneak on the plaza because the plaza was still forbidden to the audience. There was a big barrier saying construction, do not go in. That's exactly where I go in. And then before the security guy could get me, I went right, I have to show you because we have the column here, so that will serve well. I went directly to the closest tower. I didn't even know Tower 1, Tower 2, South, North. I had not really studied the towers much at that time. But I went to the very corner. In the very corner are two faces of the building with a few inches of aluminum going to the sky. And I put my chin, so it's like that, and it's exactly like that. I put my chin right there in the corner, and I look up. And I didn't see a wall. This was much, much, much beyond a wall. This was a line of infinity, to the point that in my book, To Reach the Cloud, I tell the story from which Man on Wire and the Zemeckis movie were built. I said the truth. I said I remember it as a landing, how do you say for the aircraft? A landing
strip? Yeah.
Yeah, landing strip for extraterrestrial vessels, you know, because it was going through infinity. So the minute I look at that, that was my first vision. And then in the book, it's the chapter is called First Vision, First Visit. So the first vision is what I mime, and the first visit is I manage, by disguising myself with a construction hat and all that, to go to the roof. And I look at the corner, and I look at the other corner. And at that moment, so first vision, it's not human. First visit on the roof, I look at my dream to put a wire and walk, and it was written in the sky, impossible. To the point that I remember, I murmur, I whisper to myself, impossible, impossible, impossible. And I went back down and I thought, okay, let's put some order in my thoughts. Impossible, fine. So let's start working on it.
Not only that, you convinced others that this was an impossibility that you could take on.
But that's the beauty of my profession. It's not a profession, but my way of living on the high wire is the way I do it, because I'm not from an established style of performing like the circus. When I walk on the wire, people come to me after a show and they say, I don't invent that. They tell me, I have been so much inspired that now I believe that I can do the impossible. And that is a great compliment for an artist. But yes, I was talking about the amazement of walking on the wire. One of the amazement is, and you feel it when you are the subject, that's what you're doing is impossible. It's impossible to walk on a little stage the size of your finger and mostly thousands of feet in the air. It's impossible. Even the birds sometimes have trouble flying.
So we're going to talk about the World Trade Center walk, but let's talk about your feet. Because you spend a lot of time talking about, but, you know, they're very young-looking feet. Would you show the audience?
I show because I have a tattoo here, but it's before it was fashionable to have tattoos, and it was done on an island in France, not with a modern apparatus, but with needle, and really was really a prehistoric thing. And it's like Le Petit Prince. It's a planet with a wire landing on it. And that's a bit the story of my life. That's probably politically incorrect to get your...
No, not at all. I think you're not the first person to take your socks off on this stage. I'm joking. But, you know, the way you describe the role of your feet, you talk about this is in relation to the World Trade Center walk, but I assume it's true for all of them. You write, trust your feet, let them lead you, they know the way. And there are ways of walking, and there's a conviction of elegance that you convey in the way you walk, and it seems it all comes down to your feet.
No, and yes. Yes, the wire walker stands on his or her feet to walk on the wire. But actually, to me, it's so much in your, I shouldn't say the brain, in your soul, in your mind, the act of doing the impossible, that yes, there is some technical scientific equation that explain what balance is. I'm doing a speech to engineers very soon, and I will play with that. But to me, it's an expression of your passion and of your counting the impossible. So going back to the feet, yes, a wire walker has a lot to do with feet, but it's so much more than that. And I'll make a little parenthesis. It's my speciality, and I usually forget the question when I do that. But feet, I have to remember. When I was 17 years old, and I just learned by myself tightrope walking, started with a rope between two trees. I knew nothing. I had no teacher. I started daily forgetting to eat and to sleep. I was on that little rope and soon a little wire, day and night, so to speak, learning and learning. And normally, 70, 80 years later, when you're 99, you should write a treatise of the art of wire walking. Not me. I wrote it a month after I started. And I wrote a definite study of the art of balance, etc. And this book, which has a lot of success in the world, it's called in America On the High Wire, but the original title in French was Le Traité du Funambulisme, the treatise of wire walking. You do that at the end of your life, not at the beginning. But anyway, I've been always breaking rules. And okay, I know I'm not losing my wire. I'm going back to the question of the feet. In this book, there are chapters on how to put your feet on the wire, how to successfully annihilate the vibration of the wire. Because when you put a foreign body, a human corpse on, not corpse, in America, corpse, you're body. Dead. Yeah. But the core, the body on the wire, you inflict or you force the wire to support you, and the wire says, no, I don't like that. A bit like a young horse who needs to be tamed. So the wire starts moving, but only if you spend hours on that wire. And if you are a poet, because if you are an engineer, you won't succeed. But if you are half of an engineer and half of a man of stage and poet, you will see that it's your whole way of behaving, even in your thoughts, that makes that vibration go away. You see, and I have written all those observations, which 18, 19 years old, I collected on the wire. I would walk on the wire and I would say, oh, that's interesting. How before to do my half a turn, if I stop breathing, I am lighter. And so I would write before half a turn, and at the end of a few months, some friend says, all those little notes, they're quite fascinating because they're showing the backstage of an artist. You should make a book of it. Mm. And I say, oh yeah. And I had my first book.
Let's talk about
I have to say one more thing about that because I'm so proud of it. I'm proud of rejections and things that don't go well. So that book, On the High Wire, got 14 publishers in America who says, what, a wire walker, a treatise of wire walker, get out of here. And I couldn't find a publisher until I became friends with Paul Auster, who recently left us, and who found me in 10 minutes, Jonathan Galassi, the head of Random House, and we did the book. I don't know why that was important. It's important to me. I like to...
It's an extraordinary story. And in terms of what you know now after 50 plus years of wire walking, does the book hold up?
I hate you. That's another fabulous question. You know what?
I can leave, No.
Can you repeat exactly what you just said?
Probably not. No. But does the book hold up 50 years later of your experience of wire walking?
I love that because I was going to say, not being asked, but it's better being asked, that every 10 years or so, I take this little book. It's like 60 pages. It's a booklet. I take it, and it has new editions, new publication. And I read it. And you know what? 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever I read this book, I don't want to change a semicolon. Mm-hmm. It's the philosophy of the art of wire walking is right there, and I cannot believe it. I was at the beginning of my life. So Does that answer your question?
It certainly does.
Okay.
We have a photo of you between the towers, and we'll put it up on the screen. But again.
Oh, wait.
Yes, please.
Oh, I have to comment. And this is not a critic, or this is not a sarcastic remark. I'm not being facetious, as my friend Woody Allen would say. I'm being truthful. This picture does not exist. It comes from an agency of picture, and they made a mistake when they print it. They print it in the wrong side. It's called being flopped or flapped. So here I am going to the South Tower after the first crossing from the south to the north, and the South Tower is on the left. So this is a wrong picture, but yes, I am on the wall, so I guess
that's true in that sense. Yes. It did happen. We know that. We know that much. I won't go. The details of how you got there and all the equipment is fascinating, but it's a long story. If you'd like to tell it, it's fine. But moment.
Do we have 4 hours?
There's a photo, though. It's not this one, but you're up there.
But let me interrupt you, because I know you're going to hold on to your thread, to your rope. The actual story of that night, after all those months, not dozens of years of planning, the story that night of me able with 2 crews of friends and equipment, and almost a ton of equipment with me on the South Tower, was and a night of rigging and interruption by guards coming and all that, was I call it in my book a festival of miracles. It was not 1 or 2 miracles. Oh, we were lucky that the guard went to the bathroom instead of to me and all that. No, there was like dozens of miracles, some small, some big. And it's interesting how in the life of somebody you do an achievement, but you should not believe that you are alone. There is something from, I don't know, the gods, if you believe in gods, or something, maybe destiny, a chance, that helps you or that is against you. And chance seems to always be on my side.
Well, one of those pieces of luck, it turns out, is that while you're setting all of this up, someone comes up to the roof innocently, not in any official capacity.
Oh, yes.
And actually discovers you. And I'm interested in that interaction before the walk begins.
I never met that person, but he was not a guard. He was dressed in a 3-piece suit, so I imagine he was a morning worker, or not worker, as you say, employee, or head of a whatever, because the top floor were unoccupied, but below that there were a lot of company, exercising their business. So I thought it must have been a guy a bit like me, a daydreamer, who would go a little bit early, and then sneak to the roof because it was still under finishing construction, and then wanted to see the beauty of the sky of New York. So this man was maybe 50 feet from me, coming up from the little ladder. There were no staircase being built yet. And I saw this man as a destroyer of my dream, because I thought wrongly. You see, you are that man, and you see here a kid completely darkened with fatigue and with dirt from working, with cable, and you're not going to think, oh, he's an illegal wire walker, and there's no way. But the cable was already across. So in my mind, this visitor was going to know immediately what's going on, which probably is impossible. Even if you see the cable, it could be workers installing some kind of thing. So anyway, and he was going to instantly call security, and within 1 minute, my dream will be destroyed. So I had very interesting thought about preventing this man from doing that. And fortunately, it stayed in the realm of thinking, because the man must have felt, sometime in life, I don't know, anywhere you feel something is a little bit electric, and you make a U-turn and you cross the street and you avoid those people. It's just an intuition. So I had the intuition that, he had the intuition. That's my take on the scene. It's a movie scene I'm describing. He must have a feeling like, I don't really like the feeling. This guy obviously is mad. The way he stands, he stares at me. I was in the middle of finalizing the rigging. I didn't have 9 seconds to spend. And I was still, but I wanted to play like a worker. So I slowed down, I scratched my head, But I really, my dream was going to be destroyed if I don't do this and that in the next 5 minutes before the workers come in. Anyway, so the guy must have felt, it's a bit weird. And he turned around and he went back down. He saved his life.
He also missed a great show.
Yeah.
There's one little note that you put that I want to ask you about. So you're putting up the rigging, and you actually put a carpet under the rigging because you say, I do not wish to leave even the tiniest scratch on the towers I love.
So my love for architecture and engineering came at an early age. The minute I knew barely how to walk on that little tightrope, and I wrote a treatise about it, that minute I was going to devour the world. But I was not born in a rich, area of being. So I was a street juggler. I was a magician. I was surviving, struggling, and the world didn't come to me. But that's why I started doing things without permission. But my instinct at 15, 16, 17, 18, in this age of ebullition, of creating an art that probably did not exist while walking, was to look around. Oh, they are building 2 towers. Oh, that's for me. They're building it for me. Here, oh, there is, Iguazu. There is the largest waterfall in the universe. I have to go there and do something. So I was curious and looking. I was actually looking in architecture magazine about not only skyscrapers, but small things as well. I was curious about the beauty of engineering and architecture and construction. And that's what I did. I probably today, I have a little, box with the index card of all my works, and I number them. So I have passed number 100. Probably the numbering is ridiculous anyway, but anyway, I in the probably 100 wow walks I have done all over the world, I was each time seeking some unusual use of a building, and use is the wrong word. I don't use a building. I offer my humble, well, forget, I'm not so humble, but my participation to enhance the building. Like at Notre Dame, after I did my illegal walk, not I again, but I read in art newspaper that some people look at the Notre Dame facade and it's a new building. Now that Philippe has walked there, they don't see the architecture as it was. It has been embellished and enriched. Again, a great compliment for an artist, by the putting of a wire and dancing on it. So that's again another face of my profession, of my way of life, with a highwire that I love. I inspire people, and I give building very often a second life or a different life. And I tell you, in life, I think we are trained to look at object, but much more interesting than object is what the artists call the negative space, which is a space between 2 objects, which you don't even notice unless you have 2 weird profile of a vase in art book, and you can see a human face, right? But it forces you, look not at the vase, but look at the shape. Oh, I see the nose, I see the mouth. To read a negative space is not normal for people unless you are a student artist. And that's what I was interested in the Twin Towers, in Notre Dame, in many things, was not the towers themselves. Yes, I need 2 anchor points, I need 2 towers, but was to play with what was not seen before, the negative space, and give it substance, give it life. And now I'm writing my new book on philosophy.
We'll talk about your new book, but there's one, we don't have the picture, but there's one photo of you, you will know it, of you, I guess at the beginning of your walk, with a smile on your face. And describe the smile and what that feeling is.
Again, this is really amazing. This is the best interview of my life right now. Yes, absolutely. this question is really beautiful. I'm doing a lot of interview and Q&A and talking on stage, and it's very often the same question. How did you start? Was it windy up there? How heavy is the pole? Which I hope. No,
that's my list. That's my list.
But the smile is very important. And again, I have to get back into my subject. When I am on the wire, I am not here to entertain people. Well, in a way, I am doing a performance, but for me, it's much more personal. It's me and the wire. And the more I try to play for the people, like you are in arts, in circus, in theater, sometimes you do something on stage to make people applaud, to make them react. Oh, ha, bravo. Me, it's almost the opposite. I would love my people not to applaud, to remain silent, to be under the spell of looking at something otherworldly. And after, it's nice if they applaud and scream. So on the wire, I am not, I don't know, it's not a fun thing. It's a very serious activity. I am serious. At the World Trade Center, and we see that on the pictures, after the first few steps, where I was really not somber, but I was not scared. I was terrified maybe, but not scared, because I had not checked the anchor point on the other side. And my friends were not professional riggers. So usually before I do a performance, I rig, I direct my crew with crane, helicopters, whatever. And just before the show, I go and check the anchor point on the arrival. But here I couldn't fly, look at the anchor point and fly back. So for the first few steps, I had such a doubt. What if something is wrong in the attachment? And after a few steps, which are documented with my friend Jean-Louis taking picture, there is one picture, I have probably done 20 feet, and there is a giant smile, because I realized, okay, this is the worst wire ever rigged in my life. But it's not death. There is still, I am not risking my life. I am carrying my life. And I had a giant smile. And that smile, now I'm answering your question, that smile, in that moment, because I was in a performance, but what a weird performance. I couldn't see my audience. They couldn't see me. I was a dot in the sky. Some people even were saying to my friend with binoculars, what's happening? This is a wire walker. A what? Where? You know? So anyway, how can you talk about performing and about what to do with your smile when you're so far away? But in other performance, where I am close to the audience, closer, and they can see my face, when I feel something is happening and it's perfect and I'm so happy, I cannot help produce a smile. I bite my lips to the blood to stop that smile, because that's not right. I should be a serious wire walker. And then this is, so it's interesting that the story of the smile at the World Trade Center had a reason to be. And in my life, I exaggerate and I embellish, of course, but usually I don't like I'd like to be dedicated into the performance in the best way I can as an actor on a stage, let's say. And usually my personal sentiment, oh, I'm so happy this movement was so well, and I smile. I don't let that appear. I bite my lips, not to the blood, to not show my personal feeling. It's a strange thing. I hope you can understand.
So maybe it's the smile, or maybe it's another moment, but is there another particular moment on the wire up there that sticks with you?
No, but talking about maybe not miracles, but talking about chance, or maybe not, it was so high and so out of human scale. I mean, 100 meters, 100 yards for American, higher than the Eiffel Tower, but that's for the Parisian. But anyway, a quarter of a mile in the sky. Nobody had walked that high before, and it was so inhuman and so impossible. Hold on, I completely forgot your question.
Well, is there a particular moment?
Oh, yes. So, at some point, because of the terror surrounding me, the terror of being there, not the terror growing inside me, when the police was on the other side, I didn't want to stop the show and give myself to them. That's too easy. So I turned around But the turnaround that I do practicing on the wire, there's many ways to turn around, but one quite safe way for me is to stop on the wire, to put the balancing pole behind your neck, and to do a quick move where you turn on the wire with your feet, and here you recatch the balancing pole. But that figure, as I heard a little whoa from the audience, is actually not easy. It's a bit delicate.
Really?
So I decided, and I hated myself for that, but maybe it was smart on my part, that I was not going to chance it there with the wind, with the vibration of the wire, with, being so high up and all that. So I did something that I found ugly, and I will never do in a performance, but it's kind of safe, which is you put a balance, you crouch down on the wire, your center of gravity is more low, you have more stability. You put the balancing pole, which was giant and very heavy, thank you for not asking how heavy it was, on the wire. And then there is a quick thing. You let go of the pole of one hand, then of the other, and you re-catch it. I'm going to mime that in a half a second, while you're doing a half a turn with your feet. So it's like that. And, okay, you have the same reaction. It looks quite dangerous, but it's much less chancy than the one standing up, because you're close to the wire and you can catch So I did that 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I don't know how many times, because frankly, I don't know how many crossing, and that we go back to the legend. I say I did 8 crossing. Probably I'm lying. Probably. Certainly I did 4. It had to be equal, because I started from the South Tower and I came back to the South Tower. The arrest sheet can attest of that. So it was more than 2. It was 4 for sure. Probably it was 6, and I embellish it to make it 8. Which is, again, ridiculous, because doing 6 crossing is as amazing as, Anyway, so probably I did 1, 2, 3 times or more this safe for me, half a turn. The reason I mentioned that is that at the time I felt safer to improvise. That was improvised. Nothing was thought of. The walk, I never thought of the walk. The main thing was to put a cable illegally. The walk is, sure, I should think about the walk, but I don't have the time. So 3 days, 5 days, 6 days, a short week after, I did the sentence of the court, which again I completely cheated, which was in Central Park. And in Central Park, I put my inclined cable from one end of the Belvedere Lake, it's a pound with syringes and broken bottles, to the top of the Belvedere Castle, which is an ugly little thing with a tower. And at some point, I did a half a turn. And I did that half a turn because I had not had time to fabricate a smaller and lighter balancing pole. So I was doing 45 pounds. Thank you for not asking. I was lifting this bar, 45 pounds. I hardly could lift it. So what I did is I thought, I'm not going to try to do my regular, elegant half a turn. So I went like this, and I did the half a turn, and I missed. And I found myself like a monkey hanging from the knee and holding the balancing pole with one hand. I still don't understand how I could do that. And then out of sheer madness, I came back on the cable and continued the show. And I was discussed with life, and I didn't want to go to the press conf. And my friend at the time said, Philippe, that's part of the life of a wire walker. You had a problem, well, confront the camera and tell them. Which I did. But anyway, that is to show where is the luck, where is the destiny, where is and that is a chapter in my little book written at 18 years old about wire walking, is that there is no such thing as safe wire walking. And at the same time, I say something that amazed people. I hate risk, and I will never in my life on the wire take any risk. So where do you place those little incidents? I don't know. I guess you're learning.
It's confusing. I will say, you talk about the wire that was set up between the towers, but ultimately you got it back, you brought it home. That's the wire you practice on upstate, is it not?
Yes. Yes, it's a 3/4 inch wire, even though in my book, To Reach the Cloud, as I said, another lie is so stupid. I said it's 7/8.
You did, yes.
Makes me look more important. That I walk on a 7/8 cable. I don't know. Sometimes I look at what I create as legend and I thought, this is so ridiculous and why? But anyway, I'm glad I don't have much time in my life to ask myself why.
Well, speaking of creating myths, you have an autobiography in the works.
Oh, yes. Oh, I have written 11 books, although Judith in the audience will say, no, it was 8. And my latest book, and it has not been published yet. Any publisher is welcome to come to the green room and we'll shake hands. And it's an autobiography. So that book is correct in my life. You don't write an autobiography at 12 years old. So I'm writing it I started 2 years ago, and it's the definite thing. And it's honest. There is no lie. Hardly any lie.
Well, tell us a story that's true that we don't know that you've got in your autobiography. Give us a preview of what we're going to learn.
Hold on, that's a triple negative you just threw out. I don't get it. Tell us a story.
Tell us something from the autobiography that we don't know.
Well, very simple. I feel like standing up because all this makes me very excited. No, let's sit down. A lot of people, when they sit, they cross their legs, right? It's a way of sealing the sitting down position, because if you need to go, you need to unlock the leg. Me, I like to sit like that, ready to run.
All right, I'll join you.
And when I go, this is not answering the question, when I go to a restaurant, I like the table in the corner. And in that table, I like the chair against the two walls, because I can see the entrance if they come to arrest me, and I know how to escape. Okay, that was because I was feeling about that question to action to stand up. And did I forget the question?
The autobiography. What are you going to tell us?
So I was influenced by my companion to be honest. That's a lot of work. But I tried. And I was also influenced to talk about subjects that I, in my life, never wanted to talk about. In an interview, I will change the question, or I will not agree to answer that. On 2 or 3, obviously sensitive, personal subject. And there are 3 chapters in that book that address exactly those 3, not taboo, but those 3 sensitive areas that in my in my public life, I never wanted to discuss. So to me, that was pretty important.
What are those 3 areas?
No, you'll have to read the book.
Well, all right. I look forward to it, but I'd like to invite you back here to talk about the book when it's out. So we'll put that in your inbox.
No, I give you a human example. I had a little girl, 9.5 years old. I gave her the name Gypsy and Cordia because of the cord, obviously. And she died at 9.5 with an explosion in her brain. And I never talked about it. I never, it's too painful and all that. There is an entire chapter in my book about that little character who lived happily for 9.5 years. So that's something that doesn't come with age, because I don't believe in age. I'm 75, but I am 18. I refuse to grow up in the same way I refused to go to school when I was a kid. I was thrown out of 5 different schools. But I think it's important as you become more mature, and I hope that's my case, or maybe not, to address things that you have easily thrown out under the carpet, you know. And I felt good writing chapters on those difficult personal subjects. So let's hope the book is out soon.
We'll look forward to it. Let's see if we have a question or two from the audience.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. May I interject? When I do Q&A, I have a little personal tradition. I see if there is in the audience a child. Do we have a child in the audience? A child? Is there a child in the audience? Pardon? Front row? No, I don't see. A child doesn't have to be 5 years old, but do we have a young person? No, because usually when I see a child in an audience made mostly of adults, I love the child to ask the first question. And very often it's very revealing. They never ask you how heavy was the pole. Okay, you conduct the...
Thank you. When I call, just wait for the mic. This lady right here in the second row.
Thank you so much for coming here. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I had no idea who you were until about 10 years ago. My sister handed me a historical fiction book. Do you know which book I'm talking about by any chance?
In historic picture? In
Historical fiction book. It's called Let the Great World Spin. Have you heard of this book?
Yes. This is by my friend Colum McCann.
Yes.
And he wrote a novel, I explain in 2 seconds. He wrote a novel that is centered about my work. It's a few people of very different way of life, and they look at the same incident. And throughout the book, he develops the character of those people, and he comes back to me on the wall. Thank you.
Absolutely love this book. It became one of my favorites. I'm very curious to know what your favorite book is. Aside from the ones you wrote.
This is crazy. I was asked by a literary magazine, what is on your bed table, reading material? And again, I don't know why, but I told the truth. The truth was the entire collection of Tintin. Tintin is a comic book in France with a little guy with a hair up and a little white dog. And it's translated in 55 languages, And then The Act of Creation, a book written by a kind of German philosopher in 1960 or so. And then I am reading something ridiculous. It's a thick book, and the title is 555 Russian verbs conjugated in all their tense and person. I, you, we, they, past, future, and all that. Because I love to practice language that I learned to speak. And that's at the moment the 3 books on my bed table, but that's not very revealing. But on my bed table, there is a little shelf where I have placed the books that I love in my life. I don't read much, but I mean, and I keep those books here because when sometimes I'd like to read a little bit of it, and also they remind me of how, I don't know, of what I like. So this maybe is more revealing. One of the book, it is by Nuno Oliveira. He's a not Brazilian, Portuguese equestrian master. He's no longer living, and it's Réflexions sur l'art équestre, equestrian art reflections. And it's so a little bit. I mean, I'm pretentious now, but a little bit like my treatise of walking. Chapters on walking a horse, chapter on feeling this and that. Very simple about an art. And then there is a book by Italo Calvino called Le Baron Perché, The Baron in the Tree, which is magnificent, has not been put into a film yet, and I want to get the rights and make it my first film. It probably won't happen. And it's a story of a little kid. I'll try to be short, if not, we're going to approach the 4 hours I was threatening before. It's a little kid in the 18th century in a big garden. Okay, no, let's keep it short. He's eating, and his father say, eat your snails. And he hates the snails, and he climbed the tree at the end of the table outside, and he said, and the father says, when you come down, you're going to eat. And he says, I'll never come down. And the whole book is about a child growing up and becoming a philosopher. Heads of state come from all over the world to consult with him, and he lives in the trees, and he even travel because branches connect with other branches, and he travels in Europe and all that. And at the end, I should not say that, at the end, there is a balloon, and he jumps on the wicker basket of the balloon, and the balloon brings him to, to the moon or something. So anyway, I don't know why I got carried away in telling the story of that book, but it has to do with walking, maybe. Oh, you are here. Thank you. That was a great question. You're not the only one.
Now I'm upset. Let's see. Up here, please. Wait for the mic.
Thank you. I was a young man and a lifeguard for New York City when you walked towards Belvedere Tower. And they had me meet you because I was the lifeguard. And I said, please don't fall in. There's probably alligators. Or something like that. And you said to me, I don't plan to fall in. Something like that. My question to you is, because I remember it very vividly, and I'm old. Did you feel the love that we felt for you when you did that?
Love would not be my choice of word, but okay. Yes, I feel when there is an audience, except illegal walks, it's different. But when there is an audience in a theatrical, circus, whatever performance way, I feel, maybe because the way I present my art on the wire, I feel a very strong connection with my crowd, and they feel that, I feel very often they are riveted. That's why they don't applaud immediately when I do something, but after. And I feel love would not be the word I would choose, but I would feel certainly respect and appreciation. Respect is also not the right word in the relationship between an artist and the crowd that he performs in front of. You see, I didn't say perform for, but because maybe I keep my performance as a very intimate dialogue between me and the wire that I love so much, and I offer that to the audience, it's maybe a much stronger gift than, again, trying to entertain the crowd and have them laugh and applaud and all that. So after the show, many people come and they express their appreciation of what I gave them, and they use repeatedly that notion that I inspire them. Now, when you're inspired by somebody, there is a certain amount of love there, but, we'll have to define what love is, and I don't want to. But anyway, yes. And by the way, it's very funny you mentioned, the alligator and all that, because I said I cannot fall, which is what I say all the time, which is pretty much true. But also I didn't tell you the truth, which is I'm scared of water. I'm not a fish. When we go to the sea, I bathe till here because the waves are too ferocious and the ocean terrorizes me. And even on a boat, I feel uncomfortable because, I cannot touch with my feet below. So I would much rather walk on a high wire, thousands of feet above arrows with the poison than above your swimming pool 10 feet above. I know how to swim, not enough to save myself to swim to the edge. Anyway, but that's great. Thank you for sharing that story.
So I'm going to ask one more because we're running on time, and I want to close with this. Your walk has become emblematic of buildings that are no longer there.
People say legendary because the tower's not being there. Yeah. And I accept that, not in a self-important way, but I think the word legend has, we don't pay attention to legends anymore in our modern life. And then when I read that Philippe's walk, now that the towers are gone, had become legendary, I take that very seriously. Yeah. I think it's beautiful, the notion of something that maybe never happened, or something you tell your children and they couldn't see it, but it becomes more than storytelling. It's almost a legend, Sorry, I interrupted.
No, but what do you think about all that happened and your role as the man on the wire between those towers?
No, I don't feel like that. I am not equilibrated enough to understand what life is. I am running through life, and I'm doing a lot of stupid things and wrong choices and mistakes. I drive my life a lot by intuition. I think it's, to me, a more poetic force than called intelligence. I don't, at the end of things, people say, do you have any advice to give and all that? No, I know nothing. I am not a stupid, but I am a street juggler. And when the cops come, I take my unicycle, and I don't want to spend my night in jail, so I run away with my unicycle. And when it's raining, no, don't say that, Philippe. I borrow an umbrella. But you don't fight the police, you don't fight, in my opinion, the rain. You survive, you trick the system, there is always a little fissure that you can escape the problem which is about to stop you. So I am not the profound person that could end a debate like this, or a discussion with profound philosophic thing. But at the same time, yes, I am taking the challenge. I can tell you, in my self-discovery of magic, juggling, high wire, doing lecture. I do a lot of lecture, writing books. I have acquired a philosophy that life is mysterious, that we should pay attention again, I say, to storytelling, to legend, to miracles, to magic, and that life is made of plus and minus. I mean, this is not me saying that. You are being born, you die. Everybody will do that. And then you have on the wire, it's a great metaphor. You are in balance, and then you are losing your balance here and there. And so it's a constant fight. So, you have to adapt, or you have to give up. Some people say, no, life is not worth living, and they disappear. But if you decide to face life, you have to be passionate, you have to be a poet, you have to believe in the impossible. I believe that the impossible is not there. And you have to sneak through the adversity, and you have to have that smile in you to inspire people, because if you go through life, with a down feature in your face, it's going to be contagious. People looking at you in the subway, they're going to do a bad face too. But if you seem happy of living, and you're observing people, and then you're indestructible in a way. So that's my ridiculous philosophy of life that I think you were trying to extract from me.
It's clear we could have a 4-hour conversation. Please join me welcoming and thanking Philippe Petit.